Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hello, and welcome to the podcast. So there I was, which is how all great aviation tales begin. This is episode number 60 with Moose, entitled, what is it, RePete?
White Horse Scotch and Vinegar. Yum. Desperate Marines drinking anything.
That was a good story, along with about 100 others. Wow. What a great interview.
These were, he has all the amazing tales, all the great aviation tales. Yes, a great interview indeed from a great aviator, a great Marine, great American.
Oh, yeah. Once again, I felt like we were listening to an aviation legend. Started his career in 1955 as a NAVCAD, and then retired in 70.
I think it was 75 after Vietnam. Yeah.
He got promoted after 2 passes as a major. He got promoted on the evacuation ship after the evacuation of Saigon.
We initially got a hold of Moose because of one of our pilot, Earl McCoy, whose dad is featured on our website in newspaper articles after ejecting from an A4 off of Hawaii. Moose was one of his dad's squadron mates, although I don't know how much time they spent together because Moose flipped back and forth between helos and jets. Like
never heard of this before.
Nobody I've ever seen.
He had over 1,000 hours in the F-8 Crusader. Matter of fact, while he was flying the F-8 Crusader, the Oriskany, he got awarded the DFC, and he only had 28 air medals total after all his combat time.
Yeah. Right. He couldn't break that number 30. You know, some people are just slackers, but he did get the Bronze Star with the V for Valor on his Distinguished Flying Cross. So I guess we give him a pass.
Just unheard
on
of.
Not making 30.
And also there's the trend continues, RePete, with the killing of livestock.
Not one.
The senseless
2 animals.
Murder of livestock. It's coming up, but it's obviously a trend.
Yeah. So a squadron mate shot a water buffalo when he was nose to nose with him in his hooch.
Another good story. Actually, that ties in with the White Horse Scotch.
That's right.
That's exactly White Horse Scotch.
It does. And then he goes, well, how do you tell your grandkids that you killed elephants, pink elephants in Vietnam? But, you know, they were transporting weaponry for enemy combatants. So
it was a motorized artillery piece. It just happened to have flames as the motors. Unbelievable, right?
Yeah. Don't think about pink elephants. Don't think about pink elephants. Kill them. We got to also mention real quickly before we get over to Moose. Thank you very much to Jordan Harbinger for doing a show swap with us. We've been listening to his shows. This latest one was with a corporate espionage agent. Amazing guy to listen to. The information that he gets out of people over the phone. He's left that career now and written a book, but the Jordan Harbinger show is amazing. He finds these people and it's well worth listening to. We'll talk more about that during the show.
Yeah. I'm having a blast listening to his episodes as well.
I think in the meantime, we probably ought to get out of the way. Hear how it is that someone would have White Horse Scotch
at night.
I know, it's just
the world's smallest cockpit.
It is horrible. So I don't know. Any advice for the folks while they strap in and listen to this one?
Don't sit on the ejection seat handle.
Thanks a lot. We really appreciate it.
Don't do it. Here's Moose.
Don't do it!
I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the...
So there I was, standing in the middle of this cotton patch, looking up at a damn airplane and wondering what it was.
That's how all great aviation stories begin. Welcome to So There I Was. This is Fig, and we have another great guest. Where are you, my co-host RePete?
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Good evening, good morning, wherever it is you happen to be while you're listening to this. I'm coming to you from New Hampshire today, and we have with us, as Fig said, another very special guest with us. I want to take us back to somewhere between episode 40 and 41. I received a note from a listener, Earl McCoy, and he sent me some clippings about his dad, Ken McCoy, who jumped out of an A4 off the coast of Hawaii. And he told me his dad was a NAVCAD back in the 50s, flew in the 50s and 60s in the Marines. and A4s, helicopters, that sort of thing. And sadly, Ken had passed away, but a dear friend of his and a contemporary by the name of Moose, retired colonel, United States Marine Corps, flew both jets and helos, more than 300 combat missions in Vietnam. So that was Moose's voice you heard, looking up from a cotton patch at an airplane. And welcome, Marine. Glad to have you with us.
I'm glad to be here.
What kind of aircraft was that you had spied in the sky? Do you have any idea?
I think it was a damn crop duster.
Okay.
Bi-wing crop duster. And we were back in the deep South and didn't have a lot of airplanes around there. And I don't even think they had airliners back then. So,
right on.
Would it be safe to say that's where you got the aviation bug?
The crop dusters used to really thrill me. I used to watch them, and then second year of college, promised my mother I'd go 2 years, and the Navy guy come through and offered an airplane ride to Memphis if anybody wanted to go take the test. And I figured, what's wrong? Airplane ride, and I'll never get another chance. So I took it and passed all the tests, and then they offered me to come into the NAVCAD program. So I jumped on it.
Excellent.
Nice. Very cool. So where was that? You said the Deep South. What part? Where are you from?
Arkansas. Going just a little town in Blytheville, about 60 miles north of Memphis.
Oh, sure.
If you go to St. Louis, you got to go through it. So used to have a big SAC base there. So that was exciting. So
there's a big long runway there. In fact, I landed my first Grumman aircraft at Blytheville.
Oh yeah,
a few years back. So awesome.
How about that?
Okay. So what was that reception like? We heard from Slaff Senior that he enjoyed arriving at about 1 a.m. and getting up for calisthenics at 4 a.m. Did you enjoy your reception that those Marine staff NCOs provided for you?
No, getting in Pensacola, I was still Navy, so all we had was a gunnery sergeant that took care of the PT and all the good stuff. And we didn't make our option to go in the Marine Corps until we got through carrier qual. Then we had an option to stay Navy or go Marine.
Okay.
And after looking at the boat one time, I said, to hell with this. Give me the Marine Corps. So,
how'd that work out for you? The boat? Just curious. Asking for a friend, sir.
I went out. I took 10 shots at it and lined up with a right-hand catwalk every damn time. So they sent me back for, stupid study, more field work. But I had a nickname of Catwalk Lutes until I got out of flight school. So that's everything I lined up on. But I did come back to make it. So
nice.
I decided to stay with them. So anyway.
Sure. And what kind of airplane was that in? The
old SNJ.
SNJ, okay.
Yeah, they've changed the names of all the damn things I flew. I think it's what now? It's T6.
Right.
Yeah, changed them around. I don't now I'm confused on what I used to fly. They changed it, I used to fly HUS, and now they call it a 34. So I don't know. I think it's the same airplane.
Right. In fact, I was looking earlier at some of the airplanes you had flown, and one of them was the UH-34. Not the
HOK.
No, I'm confused. I'm trying to look through my notes, but I thought it was the UH-34. No, that's it. It's the H-19 Chickasaw, and I've looked at photos. It looks a lot like the H-34.
It is.
Okay.
And the SNJ is a T6 Texan, basically, probably with some beefier landing gear.
Well, I thought I was going to resign my commission. They made me thought I was going to get in an HOK squadron. And I said, I got 2 flights in that thing, and sitting up looking at those beaters up there going intermission over my head. I said, this ain't supposed to fly.
Right.
So,
right.
I avoided that. Got into the old H-19 or whatever they want to call it. So.
Okay. Yeah. That was awesome. So this is 1954, 1955?
55, 56.
Okay.
I actually got out of school and graduated out of flight school in '56. But the Marine Corps is looking for helicopter pilots, and they offered us flight training or helicopter training at the same time getting out of jet training. And me and my buddy was dating some nurses, and that was going to give us more time in Pensacola. So we decided to take that offer. And they told us that, oh, this will give you more choice of duty stations. You know, you got jets, helicopters. And I believed that and swallowed it. And I spent 22 years trying to get out of helicopters back in jets. I only did it a couple of times, but it was crazy.
Oh my gosh! So you actually got your wings as a jet pilot, is that right?
Yeah. I was a hot jet pilot. You know, scarf,
You bet.
big belt buckle, no
Sure.
money, and and so they said, well, helicopters. And it had been for the nurses, I probably wouldn't have stayed for that. But anyhow,
What
they were having a good.
what was the advanced jet trainer? Was it the F9F?
Yeah, F9, the straight wing.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it was a nice airplane, but
So
it was funny. It was funny. But anyhow, we got out of flight school. I didn't go through without it. You know, used to get a lot of demerits if you
Okay.
didn't have the stuff done right. And I think I had a quota of 50 to get through pre-flight. I hit that before I ever got to the carrier. So had a couple of conversations with some admiral, and he said, well, your flying's real good, but you got to straighten up your social fly. And so he gave me 25 more to get out of flight school. And he said, you won't see me again. You'll be aboard some ship with a pair of black shoes on. You ain't going to be an aviator. So I took that to heart.
that was
That's called
yeah.
motivation.
Yeah, that was a motivation
Motivator.
right there,
Yeah.
buddy.
So
Wow.
then they got me. I
Yeah.
thought I was going to be a hot jet pilot. Got me out of school, you know, aviator, and they sent me to the East Coast in the chopper. So
Okay.
I ended up there flying a HRS and stayed there about a year and a half. Went on 2 med cruises, and I had not really excited. We got in some trouble. We were flying down one day along the beach and saw an alligator, and we thought that would make a good mascot for the base commander. So I landed, and 3 of the crew people got out and wrestled that sucker down and got him in the chopper. Headed back to the base call, said, asked if the base commander might be available. We had a present for him. But somebody had seen us. And when we landed, the base commander there, but the Department of Fish and Game Commission was there because the alligators were protected. So I just, made it was a co-pilot for a couple of weeks. Nothing else real serious got done with that. But
So could you back up a second? I was looking up what an HRS helicopter looks like. It looks like a UH-34. Looks like an H-34 a lot. But can you get back to where were you exactly when you saw this alligator? And you guys thought this?
We're flying in up out of New River in Lejeune. We're just flying up down the beach going to New Bern. But New Bern comes into this story again because I had the city council of New Bern on a tour of Lejeune flying in a chopper. And we was out over the water and I had a complete engine failure. And the only thing around that I could see that was dry was a little old pistol range. And I set that sucker down on that pistol range, and they didn't even realize what was going on. Didn't hurt anybody, didn't scratch the helicopter. They got out and thought it was part of the damn tour. And
How about that?
I said, no. So they came back in a couple of days, changed the engine, went back over and flew it home, finished my mission. But we were just coastline flying, flat hatting, and thought the alligator would make it a good gift for the base commander. But he didn't appreciate it here.
No. Oh,
Fig,
my
I'm
gosh.
starting to see a theme here. Wildlife on helicopters.
Uh-huh.
Doesn't seem to end well, no matter who's doing it. I'm
No.
just saying.
No.
Oh,
That's awesome.
yeah.
That is awesome. So New River was your first duty station after
for,
Wings? Okay.
About until 50. They got there in 56, left there in 58 got volunteered to go to Japan as a chopper
Okay.
driver and did a tour over there, and the biggest thing there that
What was Japan? Sorry to interrupt. What was Japan like in 1950?
we were
1959?
we were almost like the Buddhas over there. We could do no wrong, and we fit right in. We just put a kimono on, some wooden shoes, and we'd get in the crowd and go down to the Buddha and worship with them and drink sake, hot sake, and so we were well received. I mean, it was a fun place, and
Nice.
then during that tour they decided they split six helicopters off and sent us and the crew and everybody to the Philippines because they needed help with the Hucks, guerrillas that they were trying to control.
Okay.
So half of that tour over there was really living out of a tent in the Philippines, just trying to help corral the Hucks. And that's where I sit that one little cliff. I remember the buffalo problem we had. And
was that in the Philippines?
Yeah, that was the Philippines.
Okay.
The buffalo and the white horse went together.
So I want to hear that story from you.
Okay.
I read little bullets of your notes. So set the stage here for me. You guys were down there. You were living in tents or something.
We're
right?
bivouac, living in tents. Just no amenities of anything. Just whatever was issued. And so we sat around at night. We'd have a campfire and not do much. And some guy was talking about, well, I do have a bottle of something that I slipped it with us. I said, what is it? He said, White Horse Scotch. I said, well, I hate Scotch. The other guy said, yeah, I don't like Scotch either. It tastes like peat moss or something. And I said, well, the mess tent's down there and there ain't nobody there. We'll slip down there and see what's in there that might mix.
Right.
So we went down there and we tore that tent up looking for something. And all we found was a damn vinegar. So the guy said, well, we can try it. So, okay, we took it back. Everybody got their canteen, aluminum canteen out, and we started mixing drinks with that stuff. And I'm going to tell you, the first sip of that was a shock. I couldn't explain what it tastes like. You'd have to try it. And we sat there.
I'm going to take your word for it, Moose.
We sat there and grimaced and ended up drinking the whole damn bottle. And
oh my God!
And the one guy that had the bottle got real sleepy, so he's in his tent, and we took him over and laid him down in his cot, laid him down, covered him up, and we went back out and just talking, nothing to do, people looked for something, activity. We looked across, the villagers that sit across the road, they're selling wood carvings and all the, paraphernalia that they bring out of the mountains. And saw this damn water buffalo tied up over there. So we said, well, let's give that buffalo to him. So we went over there, nobody's around, untied it, walked him back over, walked him in the tent and put him nose to nose. I mean, he was right nose to nose with that guy sleeping. And when he woke up, he had his 38 strapped to his chest. He whipped it out and put two right between his eyes and dropped him.
Oh my God.
Dropped him right. Oh my God. Dropped him in the tent. Now, so we got 1,200 pounds of buffalo in that tent. Don't know what the hell we're going to do with it. And of course, by this time, people were waking up. And the villagers had come across looking for their buffalo. And so I tell you, our human relations crowd and the local villagers who were very hostile.
I can only imagine.
So the end result was, I think we had to come up with a $300 pot, and that settled the claim.
So what you're saying is White Horse Scotch is expensive.
Yes, it is. It was hilarious at the time, but the colonel didn't think it was funny. That may have been one of the reasons I may have got a pass over early in my career. I never found that fitness report to see what was on it. So,
how about that?
So then I
that's
kind of left there and finished that tour and came back to the States. When I got back to the States, I had they were going to put me back in choppers, of course, but then they had an opening for somebody to go to radar air traffic control, RATSI school in Olathe, Kansas. And I said, I held my hand up. I'll go. Because I knew I'd go through that school, I'd get back and become a wing staff pilot. Then I had access to jets, helicopters, anything they had on the flight line. And they also had the transition school for the jet pilots to transition to the swept wing, the F-8 swept wing. So I did that. Came back, and so I was great. I was running the GCA unit on the runway and doing the air traffic control and flying. I could fly most of the time. I flew the T-33 because nobody wanted to fly it, but I love flying it. And Beechcraft flew that, and then they had.
Now, where were
this
you?
This is El Toro.
In El Toro.
Yeah, when I got back, and then also.
So you left the school, went to El Toro, worked for the wing.
Yeah, went to the air wing as a staff officer, and then at the same time, they were bringing the 34s in, and of course I hadn't transitioned to the 34, but the wing commander said, you need to get qualified, get recertified. You did in the F9, but I want you to get recertified in that 834. I said, well, if I have to, he said, yeah, you have to. I'm telling you to. So I went through their training, got recertified in there, not knowing why, that they were putting together a squadron to go on that nuclear test with that Operation Dominic down in Johnson Island. And they were trying to put together qualified helicopter pilots to do that. And so all of a sudden, I didn't know, somebody stuck my name in the pot, not with my agreement, because I didn't want to go back to helicopters. I said I'd be a wing pilot for a year. He'd leave me alone. So then they put that outfit together, and the colonel that was in charge of it came over one day to fly. He needed his flight time, and I had a 2-hour test hop to go out and just motorize and put some hours on an engine. So they wanted him to go with me, okay. And I said, okay, that's fine. I said, so he was kind of a cocky lieutenant colonel, and of course I'm a captain, wise ass. And so he said he got in. I told him, well, this is just a 2-hour test flight. We ain't going to do much. I said, you just kind of sit over there, put your hands in your lap, and you'll be fine. You talking about pissing him off. So never said anything about it then. But that 2 days later at happy hour, we was in a bar drinking. He was there, and he said, how you doing, Moose? I said, oh, I'm fine. He said, did you find out, you're going with me on the cruise to the nuclear test? I said, bullshit. I ain't going nowhere. Oh, yeah, you are. He said, your name's on my list. And you know what? You're going to be my permanent co-pilot for the whole fucking cruise.
Oh, shit. You could just sit there with your hands in your lap. Is that basically what he was saying?
Yes. And knowing him, I figured, by God, he would do it. But he didn't. But it scared me anyway. So that's how I got back out of flying my T-33 back into flying choppers, because they needed me to go on that nuclear trip. So
was Johnson Island, was that somewhere in the South Pacific?
Yeah. It's down around Christmas Island, Johnson Island. They're down really isolated. Okay. And we were just evacuating the people off the island in case one of those things went off, when they fired it. Okay. And then we'd recover the pods that they were shooting through the explosions, just to see what kind of reaction was going on. So,
hey, I got to back up and ask you a question about your first tour in Japan. Where were you guys stationed?
It was called Opama. It was nothing more than just a little helicopter field. Nothing there.
And
nothing
geographically. Where's it located? Is it the Big Island?
We were 30 minutes from Yokohama.
So fairly north.
Yeah, fairly north.
Yeah,
we were a good ways. We were an hour or so chopper on from Iwakuni, so we were kind of in the northern part.
Okay,
and they
thank you.
Of course, Fuji was interesting because if you were a HRS pilot, you wanted to fly over Fuji, because Fuji was 12.5, and the chopper on that chopper, the ceiling one, it was 10.5. So if you went over Fuji, you really made, everybody thought that was great. But the problem was the servos on that chopper had the servo had a little rubber boot on it where the piston worked. And if it got a little moisture in there and you got up to right out, and then all you had to do, your only choice was just to kind of float down, ride down until that some bitch unthawed. So we always get a new pilot and say, okay, let's go fly over Fuji, not tell him anything. And that would happen to him. It would scare you very bad. It was interesting.
Just good. That's some good old fashioned rotor wing fun right there. Repeat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chopper.
Controls would freeze up. What? Oh, just wait. Just go lower. They'll fall out.
You get down 5,000 or 6,000 feet, you might be able to fly it again because it'll be thawed out.
Oh my gosh!
It was interesting.
All right. So I'm sorry to take you back. So I needed to get that straight in my head before we could go forward. So you're out flying H-34s in the South Pacific, hauling people off an island in case a nuclear blast goes wrong. Yeah,
and they just declassified that mission in December of last year, and
really,
and actually in December. Some congressmen they went through and they actually created a letter of appreciation and a medal for the people that were involved with that because there was quite a bit of danger if something that had happened on that pad. We could have all been heavily radiated, but it was awesome. It really was.
Declassified last year. Wow.
Yeah, I think December, and that's when they came out with got a notice from the Department of Defense that, hey, we just created this letter and a medal for the people that were really involved in that operation. But anyhow, I made it through that. We got back to El Toro, and I said, well, now my orders are coming through. And I said, well, I'm here jets again, maybe, huh? No, they sent me to Hawaii as a chopper driver. And that's where my buddy Ken got the same orders. And that's when we were going to Hawaii to fly with the Pineapple Squadron over there to fly helicopters.
So that's Ken McCoy. Okay, that's where you guys hooked up.
Yeah, well, we'd been hooked before through flight school, but this is the first time we've really been together. So.
Where were you? Was that out of that one? Was that Kaneohe Bay?
Yeah, Kaneohe Bay. And so there was a couple of stories related to that. I don't even know if the one that everybody kind of liked was talking about the cat, delivering the cat.
Yes.
And Ken had a cat that he just loved, and he was going to Hawaii. He wanted to take it home to Walnut, Mississippi, and leave it with his folks. Well, Walnut's real close to Memphis, the air station there. And of course, I went through training in Memphis, the air station. I don't know why I didn't get court-martialed for flat hatting there. But he said...
There may be a story there, but...
he said, why don't you fly my cat to Memphis, and I'll pick him up, then you just come back home. And he said, I'll get that T-33. I said, no problem. We got good guys on the flight line, help us all the time. I said, we'll set it up. You get the cat ready to go, get a cage. I'll tell the guys what we're doing, and you bring him out a certain time. Nobody will know what we're doing. I'll have that T-33 loaded, and we'll just strap him in the back seat and go to Memphis. Well, they brought him out. They did. Cat seemed fine. They gave him a tranquilizer pill, and he was okay, and they strapped him in the back seat. But when I started that engine up, that cat lost it. I mean, you could have heard him.
He didn't like that.
No, he was squalling and then crapping. I mean, you could smell it in the front. I could still smell it with the oxygen mask on. And I just said, get off, guys. Closed that down the canopy and I headed to Memphis and took him there. Ken McCoy met me there. I pulled in, taxied up, and told the guys, I said, okay, I just need to get a refueling truck. I said, I'm going to gas up and I'm gone. I'm not going to get out of this damn thing. So he came down and got the cat, got the cage and everything. They fueled me up, and I headed back to California. And, of course, when I got back there, I had a lot of gifts to give for the guys that had to clean the back seat of that damn jet up. I mean, it was just, it was horrible.
I think you just pour some jet fuel in that back seat and try and kill that smoke.
Oh, my God.
Should have just burned it. So, but anyhow, Cat made it. He's okay.
That's amazing.
But I was in a hurry to get back to California, and I did have a real serious problem with the T-33 trying to get around thunderstorm. that time of the year, Texas thunderstorms were up in the 60,000.
Oh yeah.
And that
bet.
T-30,
Okay.
like 40 was the ceiling on it. And they had vectored me up with radar. I think I was eased up at about 48,000, I think, when one of those things grabbed me. I mean, just storm, wind, rain, grabbed that T-33, and I was going up, down, inverted. Both engines, the engine flamed out. And I think I rode for 25 or 30 minutes, not knowing which way was up, down, or whatnot. And came out of that thing about 15 grand, heavy rain. That thing at the time, I had to get 220 knots, nose down. I think had 2 magnesium cartridges like shotgun shells. You had 1 shot to fire them. And I fired them and the damn thing started. And I finally recovered and started flying it myself at about 5 grand. So,
Holy
so why you
shit.
don't want to fly into a thunderstorm, huh?
That's the last one I ever flew in. I never tried another one.
Right.
I didn't want to turn around to Memphis, go back with that cat crap all in the back to see that damn jet.
Right. Oh man, no kidding.
So I got back there, got back to California, and then that's when my orders came in, and headed for Hawaii. Got orders over there and checked in. A group commander then I knew pretty well, and they had a job as a top secret control officer at the group level, and I said, I'll take it. I said, I'm going to be a groupie, and that way I could fly whichever squadron I wanted to. And I had a 2 A4 squadrons. The air station had a T-33, and nobody flew, and so I just started flying there. I didn't fly in Chopper, and I was in hog heaven and reading the top secret control material. I kept seeing this stuff come through saying 212, they're going to convert to an F8 squadron. So every time that list would come in, I'd write my name on the bottom of it and send it in to the colonel. You know, he come out, he said, quit putting your name on this list. You're not, stop doing that. I said, yes, sir. Next list come through and I put my name on it. He finally come in and said, okay, screw it. I'm going to put you on it. So that's when I got out of that helicopter billet again and back in jets. So
unbelievable. This is kind of unprecedented, repeat.
Persistence pays off.
And what was it was VMF 212, and what were they flying before the F8?
A4s. They were
so it was VMA.
Yeah, we had VMA 212 and VMA 214. Of course, I flew all my time I could with 214 because they were the black sheep. And that that TV show was on, the Black Sheep Squadron. Oh man, I said that's for me. But then I got thinking, no, that F8 is for me. I said, I'll go that route. So that's how I ended up again getting out of a helicopter back in my jet. So
of all the airplanes you flew from, the helicopters, the F8, the A4, what's your favorite?
The F8 for combat, anyway. So then our squadron 212. The Navy was rotating F8 or F4 squadrons or F8 squadrons off and replaced with F4. So when the Oriskany came through in 65, they picked 212 to make that deployment with them, as they were going to replace, put another F4 squadron on there. So that's how we ended up with back in Vietnam flying the F8. So that's one thing that happened there is my wingman. I lost him we were on a bombing run, and I lost him on that. He ended up POW. Ended up with James Stockdale. He got shot out on the same cruise as him, and they both ended up as POWs together in Illinois. And then
wow,
and that was Chapman, was it?
Harley Chapman. Yeah, Harley Chapman.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I came out after they got him. But the reason we were bombing, the Navy had a set of 15 bomb wing assemblies that would fit on the F8. And with it on there, the F8 could carry a 2,000 pounder under each wing. the A4 could only carry one center line.
Right.
So our
Okay.
CO of the squadron said, I'll take them. Navy said, we don't want them. We're fighter pilots. Give them to the Marines. So he took them all. But when we got over there, they found out that we were also doing cap missions and air-to-air and all that. We were also doing bombing missions. And he said, well, I'd like half of those back. And he said, yeah, good luck. And he wouldn't give him one of them. So we got our tour was doing both bombing and doing cap and air-to-air and everything else. And but it's weird. We'd put the 2,000 pounders under there. What we'd have to do, we'd get shut off the cat. The first thing you have to do is go tank, because they had drained so damn much fuel out of it to get it off. Then we had to refuel to get to the beach. so it was fun. It was interesting, but it's fun. But they told me that Harley, we were, we'd go in at 100 feet, pop up to 6,000, find a bridge or whatever, and try to go back down. And every time we'd pop up, there'd be about 4 SAM missiles would pop up with us, and then we'd go back down to the deck. And then C2's out at sea. Sam, we'd look, here comes 4 more. And I think they finally just run out. But Harley's story, I never got all of it, but it seemed like he was hit just as he peaked at the top, getting ready to roll in. They hit the canopy and ejected him as he was looking at his bomb sight. Next thing he knows, he's coming down to shoot.
Oh, wow.
So he didn't call off. So I turned around, went back and looked, and saw his chute coming down, and he seemed to be okay. Watched him land. Then I turned around. I said, I got to get the hell out of here. So going down the valley, and air-to-air tracers coming everywhere. It looked like Halloween, and so he hit me. I ended up losing some fuel, some controls and whatnot, but we had a A6 tanker. I found him and plugged into him. He drugged me all the way back to a carrier. It wasn't my carrier. It was the other one that was on station, but they cleared their deck, got me on there, and made it fine. And then, then I had to get highlanded to the supply ship, back to the carrier, back to there, and then they got the airplane fixed. They made me go back and pick it up, and that sumbitch was painted with every Navy logo you could get. And then the warrant was to get me back. They had to get 7 gallons of ice cream that they had to come up with to give our carrier to get me back. I said 7 gallons of ice cream. So, but everything ended up good.
So did you actually ride to transfer from ships? Then you rode across on the lines.
I had to do it twice. Let me tell you, that's almost as bad as a cat shot. The ship going up and down, the wind blowing, the water splashing.
So what is it? Just like a zip line?
Yeah.
They just put you on a harness and pull you over?
And send you. Yeah, it's like a zip line. Just going from this ship to that ship, and all that, everything going on, and wind and water blowing, and so I had to do it to get off the carrier to the supply ship, and I had to get off the supply ship to the carrier. So I had to do it twice. So,
oh my gosh!
But anyway,
if flying combat wasn't enough, then you got to do that shit.
No, that was exciting.
So that was in 1965, right?
Yeah, I made that. I came back to after that tour, after we got off that cruise, set orders again. I said, "Oh, Jess, please." So thank God they sent me to the training command as an instructor pilot in Texas. So, I was there for
Kingsville or Beeville?
Kingsville. Yeah.
Kingsville. All right.
And
a couple of Kingsville instructors here today.
Yeah, I was an instructor in Kingsville just a couple of years after.
Really? Yeah. So we were at VT-22 and flying. Yeah. The goal we got there was, everybody seemed to think you got to get 1,000 hours in this F8 Cougar, And I was there for 2.5 years, and I ended up with a little over 1,100 hours, which it's almost getting an hour a day. But
wow,
it was fun. And so then I got ready to go, and I got ready to set orders, and I said, well, see, we're going from Kingsville. Then the guy in Washington, whatever they call that guy, used to put those things together. He said, well, okay.
The monitor.
Yeah. He said, well,
fixed wing monitor.
He said, well, we're getting ready to send the 53s to Vietnam. And we canvassed all the pilot records, helicopter pilots, and we looked at anybody that's got 2,000 helicopter hours, and your name's on the list. So guess what?
Oh no.
There you go.
Oh no.
So you're going back to the 53.
But jets.
So,
But jets.
you know, I said, you can't, no, you don't want to do that. And they said, well, you're
don't wanna
you're
do
going. So I went to California, transitioned into 53, turned around and went back with HM 463 and Marble Mountain for a tour there. So crazy.
Now, did I read? So
wait.
I know I've seen video of it.
Marble Mountain, that was in Vietnam,
Yeah.
yes?
Yeah, that was I did.
It's-
It's right out of Da Nang,
So you were back there in 67?
68 to 69.
Oh my god.
And so it was good. I had, it's crazy though. We had, the squadron had, I think, 8 or 9 majors because of all this flight time in helicopters and whatnot. Our Latrine officer was a major. so then they,
Wow.
about 8 months into it, I guess, and they came up with they needed somebody to go to the air liaison officer for the 1st Marine Regiment that's south of Da Nang. So I just put my hand. I said, yeah, I'll go. So I went down and the last 8 months over there, I worked with those guys in the field, and then got through with that, and then headed back to California in 69, and didn't have. They sent me back to the air station as the S1 officer, I think, at Santa Ana, the helicopter air station, of course. Didn't send me to the group where they had all the jets. So I went back there and was just doing nothing much. S1 of the air station, he didn't do a whole lot. And then a buddy of mine had he had a 53 squad. He had a 53 HMM 363. He had that squadron. And he asked me one day, he said, why don't I see if I can get you, I'd like to get you over as my XO. I said, well, I said, that ain't going to work. I said, I've been passed over once. And he said, well, I know some people. I said, well, I don't give a shit. That ain't going to work, boy. I said, Marine Corps ain't like that. And he had been one of the presidential pilots, and he did know some people. And so I stayed in the air station there, I guess, about a year. And all of a sudden, got orders. They cut me out of the air station and put me back to that helicopter group and put me in as his XO. I thought that's damn unheard of. So I stayed there.
And you were a major or lieutenant
major?
Colonel?
No, I was a major. Had been passed over one time, and then about a year and a half later, I stayed his XO a little over a year. Then the promotion list came out. I wasn't on it, so it's 2 passovers. So I said, okay, I understand. I'm going to get out. So I put my letter in to retire. Give them a 6-month notice. And I had things I already had set up as to do. I'd go back to school. And so then about 2 weeks after I put my letter in, here come a set of orders to Okinawa. I said, what the hell?
Of course.
And he said, yeah, I called that detailer. And he said, well, our letter went out before your retirement letter came in. So you're going to have to go back for another tour in Okinawa. So I said,
what? Tour as in a squadron or on
to an air group on Okinawa.
Okay.
Yeah, Fatima.
Yeah, Fatima. So I was pissed off. You can imagine. But so I said, okay, I'll play your game again. So I went over there and checked in. The colonel there was a great guy. And he said, well, what the hell am I going to do with you? You're the most senior major I got. I can't put you in a squadron. That's going to disrupt their change of command. He said, okay, I'll make you the group operations officer. I said, I don't care. I'm here for, a year or whatnot. That's okay. So, so we're sitting there doing that. And I was enjoying my job, flying the 53s, doing all this stuff. And then the XO of the group got emergency. His wife had emergency operation, something, and had to go home. So he and I were good friends. And he said, what do you think about being the Group XO. I said, here you are. You're nuts. I'm a major.
Right.
And he said, no. Let me talk to the colonel. And he went out and talked to him. And then three of us got together and we talked. He said, well, yeah, I'll do it. He said, but we got to fly to Iwakuni. So the colonel and I had to fly up to see the general, the wing commander in Iwakuni. He had to sell him the deal that he's going to put me in as his XO as a major with all these other lieutenant colonel, squadron CO, and all that, And general told him, said, it's your air group. Do what you want. So I went into the XO. He had his staff meeting, set them all down, and said, guys, we got a problem. He said, I got a problem here. I'm going to either maybe bring one of you guys up here to be my XO, for a while, for maybe 6 months or so, or I could put Moose in and leave you in the squadron. He said, does anybody have a problem with that? Oh, no, sir. Moose, listen, we love Moose. Whatever he says, whatever he says goes.
Nobody wants to leave the squadron, man.
So he did. And
that was brilliant.
It was. So I'm sitting there as the XO. And then about this time, Vietnam showed up, the evacuation. And the general, I love the guy. He was, I'd flown with him before. So he came through, putting together a team to go in incognito, all civilian clothes, no uniforms, to start looking at how they were going to evacuate these people out. And he and I and the colonel are sitting there, they're talking about it. And the colonel looked at him and said, you're really going to need a helicopter expert. And I thought to myself, oh, shit, here it comes. He said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you Moose to go with you on this team. I said, Colonel. He said, no. And General Kerry, he said, well, he said, what do you think? I said, yeah. I said, I don't care anymore. Whatever you guys want, I said, I'm ready to do. So he signed me to his general staff for the helicopter site for the evacuation.
What year was that?
74. No, 74, because the evacuation actually was in April 75. So we got all our civilian clothes, no shaving. And we were going in, CIA boys were picking us up at night off the command ship and flying us in. And we were looking around for where to land choppers, how we were going to do it and all that. So I was, had the ground lieutenant colonel who was in charge of the security people. So we were going in, and so we were in there one night, and this was in 75, just about a week before the evacuation. And so we were waiting to get on this CIA boys going to pick us up, take us back out to the ship. And me and our two buddies sitting there, and this third colonel comes up with two Vietnamese generals and said, I got to have this chopper. And chopper said, no, I got to get these boys out to the ship. And he looked at him and he said, Colonel took his pistol out and he said, I have to have this chopper. Yes, sir. So they loaded those guys up. Off they went. And here was us standing there with our thumb in our mouth and said, what do we do now? So, well, we ain't going to do nothing now. We're going to go back and find a place to sleep.
Oh, boy.
So we went in that night. The next morning, they overran Da Nang, and the people up there they overran left all their bombers and everything on the runway, fuel with ordnance. And they came to Saigon and just bombed, totally closed the airfield in Saigon, where the evacuation was supposed to be taken. All the 130s were going to fly there and take all these people out. Okay, they totally closed it. So that's when they said, okay, we got a problem. And that's when they took frequent wind.
Wow.
So,
wow. Okay. And is this about 74,
75,
right before?
This is April.
Oh, okay. Okay. So right about the end of it there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's come back in just a minute and talk about that. I want to take just a moment to talk about another great show that has come across our radar recently. It's an amazing show, the Jordan Harbinger Show. Let's talk to you about it.
Hey, RePete, have you listened to the Jordan Harbinger Show lately?
I have, and I am loving it, Fig. The guests he gets on the show are fascinating.
Absolutely. I especially like the episode I listened to last with David Packhouse, the real-life gun runner and the inspiration for the movie War Dogs.
Oh, that was a great one. But I'll tell you, for me, Terry Crews was a standout. I met him on a layover recently, and he was a super nice man. He's a genuinely talented actor and comedian, and boy, was that fun to actually get to learn more about him after meeting him.
Dude, that's awesome. That's the beauty of the Jordan Harbinger Show. There's something for everyone. He dives into the minds of fascinating people, from athletes, authors, celebrities, scientists. I mean, it's huge.
It is. And he's got a talent for getting his guests to share never heard before stories and insights. It's always thought provoking.
Exactly. Without fail, he seems to pull out tactical bits of wisdom in each episode, all with the purpose of making you more informed and a critical thinker.
Absolutely. And point blank, Jordan Harbinger is smart, funny, and easy to listen to. You'll be hard pressed to find an episode without excellent conversation, a few laughs, and actionable advice that can directly improve your life.
So, for all of our So There I Was listeners out there, don't miss out on the Jordan Harbinger Show. You can search for it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you use the URL jordanharbinger.com/start, you'll get some special bonuses.
That's right. The Jordan Harbinger Show is a top shelf podcast named Best of Apple in 2018. So don't just ignore our suggestion to listen to this like you probably do with your other friends who tell you to listen to podcasts. Just don't do it.
You can't go wrong with adding the Jordan Harbinger Show to your rotation. It's incredibly interesting. There's never a dull show. Search for Jordan Harbinger Show. That's HARB as in Bravo, IN as in November, GER, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, or wherever you listen to your podcast.
Okay. So this is now 75. I don't know why I was thinking it was 74. I've lost complete track of time. I was live then. I remember the end of Vietnam.
Yeah,
I do
But
too.
yeah, I remember riding down down the street on my bicycle with the church bells ringing.
Moose, I got a couple questions regarding this. So you go into Saigon, civilian clothes, no military association, right? You're doing this kind of a recon on how you guys are going to conduct this evacuation. Where did you stay?
We stayed at the they call it a DAO compound, and that was the Defense Attaché. That's where all the operations and everything originated out of. Everything had to be approved there. So they had Quonset huts, and we just stayed in there until we were able to get back out. So, but it's interesting because when they closed that down, we were sitting there, and of course when they found out you guys aren't going back out, you're going to have to stay here for the evacuation. So I said, well, okay, I'll just pick a landing, one of the landing sites. And, they first said, well, no, you're in charge. Anybody that comes in this building, if they got a weapon, you get it and throw it in that room over there. So the CIA people, the State Department people come in, we got all these historic weapons and stuff at the museum pieces they're keeping, and said, well, I'm keeping this. I said, if you want to get on an airplane, a helicopter, you said, you put that thing in that room over there, or you just get out of line. So they'd look at me, and I've got my shrapnel on. I got my vest. I got an AK-47, 2 pistols. I don't know what else, bandoliers of ammo. And I said, it wasn't for discussion. So,
right?
They came along with it. And then,
and I'm going to make Moose. I'm going to make an assumption here that you got to handle Moose, not because you're a small person.
No, I didn't. I really wasn't ever a big person, but the first guy, my first helicopter squadron, the maintenance officer there was a guy called, his name was Moose so-and-so. And, he was 6'6" and about 255 or 60. So they kicked him out of the jet program because he'd never be able to eject because of his height.
Right.
So they sent him to choppers. Yeah. So he was Big Moose and I was Little Moose. So when I got transferred, the Moose stayed with me.
Well, I was bringing that up because I'm picturing you as you described with the chest plate and the bandoliers, the AK, and you're probably not a small guy, and you're saying, yeah, no, if you want to get on that helicopter, you're going to put that gun in that room.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's what some of them. the CIA boys tried to give us a little heat about it. No, you don't. You're just like them. Get in that line. The other thing, the guy run in.
Right.
We had a room. A guy came down after we got pretty much settled down. The guy come down. And he said, "Come here. You got to help." I said, "What? Got to help you? What?" He said, "We got some money to get rid of." I said, "That's interesting." So I went down there, and he had a room, and I cannot tell you how much currency, $20 bills put together, stacked and everything. And he had three or four shredders running. They were just constantly filling them up, shredding. I said, what are you doing? He said, this money cannot go back. It's already been expended. If it goes back to our economy, it's going to mess it up. I said, well, okay. I guess I missed something somewhere. So
yeah, right.
He said, okay. Then some guy run in with a little overnight bag. He said, hey, I got a bus that's trying to get through. I need at least $20,000. He just throw it in the bag. Off he goes. And I said, I was more worried about carrying my ammo than I was about, taking any 20s.
Right.
So,
yeah. A couple extra 20s isn't going to save your life, but those rounds probably.
But they evacuated me when they did. I came out on the last chopper out of the DAL compound about midnight, and they took us out to a carrier. I was on the command ship, which is called the Blue Ridge. So they took me out to that carrier, and so I stayed, I think, 2 nights there before they ever got a chopper that could take me back to my command ship. And but the day I went back, I had Nugent Key, who was the premier of Vietnam when it fell, and his wife and a poodle dog. So I rode with them, getting back. They've taken him to the command ship. And we got in line there and walking through, and of course the Navy security's checking everything. He had a little black briefcase, and I sat there looking at him. He opened it up, and it just stacked solid with little gold ingots.
How about that?
And
that was his escape plan.
Yeah,
right
I saw him about 8 months later in California. Talked to all me and my wife got out with was our poodle dog, and the clothes on her back. I told him to say,
yeah, bullshit.
I said, yeah, how about the little briefcase? So it was wild.
Oh, that was for a friend.
Sure, I'm sure it was. Yeah,
I was carrying that for a friend.
I had a kind of a funny story when I was supposed to be a helicopter pilot in Hawaii. They got short one day on a massive troop lift and needed me to fill in as co-pilot. And I said, well, I'll do that since you're not putting me back in choppers. I'm just helping you out. Well, about a week before, one of their boys had got caught shooting goats on the Big Island of Hawaii. The crew chief was shooting pistols and everything outside the window. And so they got caught because the guy on the ground watching them was a state senator. They were also down there hunting goats. So when those guys got back, of course, they were apprehended, arrested, given a letter of reprimand, fined about $1,500, and made permanent co-pilot. Well, when this big troop lift was going about 2 weeks later, he had 15 airplanes, and we'd flown over to the airport in Hawaii, and we're sitting there, and he called. He said,
"Sir, I'm sorry. Are you tapping on something?"
Oh, I'm sorry. I may be.
Oh yeah. Okay. Because it's coming through. The mic is picking that up.
So he had this.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
This flight of 15 to go, and he called a tower. So flight of 15 for takeoff. And the tower said, "What's your destination?" Well, I'm sitting over there with my hands in my lap, and the 34 had a foot mic on the floor. You could key the mic with your foot. And I tapped the foot mic, said, "Goat hunting." Well, I mean, it was dead silent. Tower said, "Say again." And he said, we have an operation. We're going to the Big Island, Well, we got back in Hawaii and landed. Everybody was directed to go to the ready room. And it came in. Pilot sitting there. He said, "Okay, boys, we're going to sit here until somebody tells me who said that." And
he did.
We were there at least 5 hours. 5 hours, and nobody.
Oh my God!
Of course, nobody. I wouldn't go. Hell, I wouldn't go confess.
What?
So he finally come over. He called the kid that I was flying with. He thought it was me. he called him in. He said, I think Moose did it. He said, no, sir. He said, I'm sitting there talking to him. He's got his hands in his lap. He did not touch anything. And said, okay. So, but the guy about three months later left. His colonel got transferred, and they had a going away party at the happy hour. And so he's at the bar, and I walked out. I said, Colonel, I said, good luck, to where you going and everything. And he said, he looked at me and he said, come here. He said, let me tell you something. I don't care what you say. I don't care what you say. I know you did it. And I said, no, sir. No, sir.
Wasn't me.
No, sir. It wasn't me. So I ought to call him up one day.
You can't
I ought to
prove a
call him
thing.
up one day and tell him I did it. So anyhow, well.
No one saw me. You can't prove a thing.
So anyhow, sitting on the ship.
Love it.
The evacuation's over. This master sergeant came up. He had a list in his hand. He said, hey, do you know somebody by the name of Morris Lutes? I said, well, hell yes, me, Gunny. He said, you just got promoted. You're a lieutenant colonel. And he had the promotion list sitting on that command ship. And I said, oh, my God.
How about that? Passed twice. You got promoted on the third time.
So I came back. I tried to get out of jets again, but they sent me to the Chopper Air Wing back in North Carolina. And I had to sign a 2-year contract if I took the promotion. So I said, okay, I can do that. So they did that. And then I ended up my last year. They gave me a training squadron as a CO. So I got done everything I wanted to do. I wanted to be a commanding officer of a chopper squadron.
Mm-hmm.
So
that was one of the rag squadrons, rag squadron there. At,
New River. It was the Huey training squadron. So,
the Huey training squadron, outstanding.
Okay.
I went to that squadron, that group, because they had the OV-10 and the Cobra and just a slick Huey, and I had a chance to take either one of those. So I decided.
How about that?
I took with.
So I kind of lost track of how many different military aircraft you were qualified in. Can you get me close?
Well, you can't.
Let's do this. Let's just talk jets. All right. So you were in a T-33.
T-33, F9.
You got your F9. You got your wings in the F9.
Then I went back.
Did you fly the A4?
I flew the A4 with 214 and 212.
And then
the F8. So
all right.
I got into
I'm at 5.
I got in the back.
I'm at 5 fixed wing jets, and then so helicopters.
You can't
HMR.
Yeah, you can't name it. You got a 46, a 34, a 53, an HOK, a HRS.
That's 5.
Wow.
So
and then you flew the Huey, H1, Cobra. Were you qualified in both of those?
Just as
like NATOP qualified.
NATOP qualified. So
all right, so that's 7. And what about the OV-10?
No, I started checking out in that. I thought I might get that squadron, but no, the other squadron came up first. So I flew it. I was first. I wasn't combat qualified, but
so I'm at 12. 12 different military aircraft. Now, so other than the F-8 that you flew in combat, did you fly helicopters? You flew 53s in combat.
Yeah. And I flew with
so F-8s and 53s.
And I flew the but what was crazy is the Marine Corps required me as an air liaison officer with a ground unit to still get 4 hours a month at flight time. So I had to call. I was called as the air liaison officer. I'd call the Huey squadron because I knew the CO, and they'd come down and pick me up. So I'd fly missions with them so I could get my 4 hours flight time.
So you had combat missions in the UH-1.
And
repeat. This is crazy, right?
I know it's crazy.
I mean,
nobody.
It's
how could they do?
You are the very first. You're the very first Marine aviator I ever talked to that has done this back and forth. Usually it's one direction, helicopters, and then goes to fixed wing.
But look at the other thing. How many wires had to be crossed when I was with the First Marine Regiment? Their operations officer, had one of those emergency things. He had to go back home for about 3 weeks. Okay.
Right.
He put me in as his S3 officer as an aviator. And
Yeah. At the regiment.
yeah, at the regiment. So he had to make the same thing. We had to go up see the general in Mac at the time in Da Nang. We had to go up and meet with him, and he had to go through this whole process on why he wanted to do it. And the guy said, "Well, it's your regiment. If that's what you want to do, do it." So they throw me in there, and all these other ground officers. That's the prime billet for them.
Oh, you bet.
They're all looking at what's that aviator doing there.
Right.
So he did that with me with
sneak attack.
Did that with me with them, and then the other colonel said, "I'll put you in. You're my XO. I don't care what those other lieutenant colonels want to do." So I don't.
Yeah, and nobody wanted to leave the squadron, so we like it. We like this idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that guy.
Wow. So, how many hours did you end up with in the military, Moose?
About 8,600.
Wow.
Most of them are about probably 5. It's been more heavy sided with the choppers because that's where they kept sticking me.
Well, then you get more time per time. Every time you strap in, it's usually a longer sortie. You did 2 years at the training command, or 3 years?
2.5.
2.5, and you were in VT-22, which at that time was flying the F9s, or
F9.
was it the F9s? Okay, so you probably got a pretty good amount of time in the F9.
Oh, I do
as well.
Yeah, no, I did. I'd busted 1,000 hours in the first year. So
you had a little over 1,000 hours in the F8.
Yeah.
Right, and of all the airplanes you've flown, that's your favorite.
Yeah.
So
if it's in combat. Now,
so let's
what's for fun?
Yeah, well, yeah. What about for fun then? What's your favorite one?
The fun is the Huey, because we used to fly. We'd fly used to fly in the desert down in Yuma, Arizona, and a lot of times our flight time was we start at 10 o'clock at night because of the damn heat during the day, and we fly all night long until the next morning. But in the desert out there, they had long strips, 100 miles of nothing, and every once in a while you see a little gas station or something, stop and go. Mm-hmm. So at night out there, we'd go down there, we'd fly around and look around, and sometimes just land there and shut down and go in and see what's going on. It'd be a bar. We'd have a beer. We'd go and have a beer. And so
it was hot. You got to stay hydrated.
But it got so bad where a couple of them would come out and they set up their own little landing site. They put lights out. We'd go down at the bar. We'd buzz them. They'd go out there and they'd have these lanterns set up and they'd mark out and they'd mark a spot to land. And we just shut down. And so we were doing that in California for a while. When I first got in California, they used to think helicopters were really something different. Everybody'd run out and look at them. Nobody'd call in and say, "Hey, somebody buzzed the house." But we'd do the same thing. We'd land on the beach at a campfire and get out and have a hot dog and a drink, get back, and we had to have our 3 hours of nighttime in. And they couldn't figure out how we were doing that. But what we didn't know that the chopper had a fuel dump switch. So we just dumped all our damn fuel except what we need to record our 3 hours of flight time. Now, I know that's not legal.
How about that?
That's awesome.
But I was a martyr or something in Balboa Island in California.
Okay.
They had a historic hotel, the Balboa Inn. And we came back, first time I came back from Japan overseas, looking for a place to stay. Couldn't find anything. So we talked to the guy that was running the Balboa Hotel, was a friend of a friend. So we were renting rooms in that hotel for about $200 a week. Here we are staying in the hotel. We got room service. You got a bar downstairs, and we're down in the middle of the Balboa Island where all the bars and the girls are. Listen, that's as close to paradise as I could ever explain.
Yeah, right.
I was kind of I don't know. I was not a straight shooter all the time, but I have to say this: I was probably, and I would tell that to anybody, I was probably the best helicopter pilot that the Marine Corps had when I was there. Even going back and looking, I didn't tell you about rescuing the mountain climbers off of Mount Whitney in
No,
California.
yeah, that's what I was wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
talk about that.
It was
Yeah.
midnight and a snowstorm. The Coast Guard
What year is this? Moose? What year?
70, about
You were in
72.
El Toro at the
Yeah,
time, right?
about 72.
Okay.
When I went into as the XO of the of my buddy's squadron when I before I got
Okay.
and so the Coast Guard's card, they did not have the airplane that would hover above 10,000 feet. And I went in and picked those boys up at night. There's 4 of them. 3 of them were alive. One of them was hanging by a rope, just banging against the mountain. But I went in and I was able to pick those boys up off the side of that mountain with that big 53 and able to hover at that altitude. And it was amazing.
And what
Nice.
what altitude did you say that was?
We were right at 12,000.
Holy cow! Right?
And,
wow.
Right.
And the I don't know what the Coast Guard was flying. It's similar, not a 53, but whatever their rescue bird is was capped out at about 10 or 10.5. They couldn't.
Well, that 53 is an amazing
listen,
bird too.
That is.
That could do some stuff, and that was the Alpha model, right?
No, we had the Echo.
Oh, you had the Echo.
Yeah,
okay.
we had.
Already.
Yeah, the one that came out with the screen. I don't know what it was, but it was almost the last model, so it'd been upgraded.
Okay.
But it was a beautiful. It was
Yeah,
a beautiful bird. And let me tell you something. A lot of people don't know it, but you could loop a 53. Yes.
Now,
I think I saw a video of that one time.
You can loop a 53.
Yeah. and I said to myself when I saw that, I said, "Self, yeah,
Yeah. No.
Don't ever do that.
Yeah.
That
You
looks
only
dangerous.
do it one time, but you can do it.
yeah."
There you go.
How about that?
No, I've seen the video, and it isn't faked. It isn't deep fake. It's from long ago. 53s, they do a roll and they can do a loop, and then they have to clean the seats.
You do.
And try it again.
Absolutely.
So, no, that's an amazing bird. The other one, though, I want to go back briefly to the ever so briefly, and then we'll continue back on to finishing in helicopters. But you talked about the F-8 and being one of your favorite aircraft. That was a really unique airplane, and there was something special about the wing, and I was wondering if you could tell us about what that was and why they designed it that way.
That rotating ring or what wing that they had, that's the only way that they could get it slow enough to be able to get aboard the carrier. So they had to come up with that modification to where that wing would lift up like that and give them the carrier qualifications, really. So
okay. So essentially, the entire wing would be rotated up. But the front of it would be lifted up hydraulically to increase the angle of attack on the wing without killing the pilot's visibility to get aboard.
Right. Yeah, without changing the deck angle, really.
Yeah, terrifying.
So I want to talk about the F-8. I want some more details. So for combat, you said, the F-8 is it because it was fast, maneuverable, could take a hit, or all the above? What? Tell us, Moose.
it could take a hit. It was a real sturdy because the time they hit me, I had it went through a lot of the hydraulics and the ass end of it. It went through, got into the fuel, some of the fuel tanks, and it put all the radios and everything. But it was sturdy. I mean, even landing that thing took a beating, but it would just clean up so fast. I mean, it was really fast for that engine it had. It was.
So you would drop ordnance, and what kind of speeds would you be egressing at?
Well, when I came out after Harley got shut down, and they were hitting me, I had to be around 6 because I had actually bent the throttle. I couldn't go. It couldn't go any further forward. And
stuck your foot up there and just kept pushing.
Yeah, and so I had to be, I'm sure, in at least 6 or better. And
wow.
But what I had I had a test top on it off the carrier one day, doing a burner takeoff, burner climb, max climb and whatnot, and got up to about 35,000 feet, and the throttle wouldn't move. It hung up on me.
So, hung up in burner?
Yeah, for a minute.
Oh.
But I got out of burner, And then, but it just stayed at about 80%. So the NATOP, the good NATOP boy, had a procedure for that procedure where you fly a pattern, hit the loopholes, everything, and about 3,000 feet or more from the end of the runway, you turn the engine off.
Right.
On in. Well, I had that, and I had a friend of mine was flying with me, so he was talking to me. They couldn't take me back aboard the carrier because just they couldn't handle that. It wouldn't. It'd been net and everything else.
Sure.
So he sent me to Da Nang in there on the air station, and so we flew around. And he talked to me, and I said, "Yeah, I know. It's just here's the airspeed. Here's okay." And he said, "We got over to the point." And he said, "Okay, turn it off." I could not turn it off. I said, "Wait a minute. We're going to look at it one more time." I said, I cannot visualize shutting that engine down. So we flew it around. We flew it around twice more. And on the third time, I finally turned the damn switch off. And we coasted in on the runway and nothing happened. It's perfect.
Wow,
but if NATOP's had it, but the first time it had been had. It's not anybody ever done it.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
And
it turned
thus
out
you
okay.
were a test pilot.
I thought it was awesome that bird could carry those 2,000-pound bombs, two of them, on one on each wing. When the A4 could only handle one center line. But
that would definitely suck to get one hung.
Well, yeah, it would more than suck.
So yeah, it'd ruin your whole day.
And night.
Man.
F8 had 20 millimeter cannons. Okay, and air-to-air radar as well, right?
And they had, of course, we had those Zuni. We carry the Zunis, the rockets. We could carry the Zuni quads, and which I used one time. And guess what I shot? Elephant. We were flying around, two of us was on a cap mission one day, and a guy called one of those little boogie boys called and said, "Hey, has anybody up there got any orders?" I said, "Well, we got a couple of birds up here with some Zuni rockets, and what do you need?" He said, "Well, I got some pink elephants." I said, "Yeah, okay. What'd you drink last night? What'd you drink? Damn sober, drunk out here flying it, in the combat." And no, come on. So he vectored us down to where he was and showed us what it was. And there were three of the pinkest damn elephants I'd ever seen in my life. They were going through that jungle and through the mountains, and they picking up that red clay, and that's what they're blowing up to keep the bugs off of. They just blow that, and they were solid pink. And so me and my buddy took turns. We made passes and just blew the hell up. And they were all,
my gosh,
they were loaded with had artillery pieces.
Well,
but how do you tell your kids that you shot pink elephants in the damn war?
Right.
Fishing game here anyone?
At that point, it wasn't an elephant. It was a movie. It was
it's an artillery piece of some kind, right?
Yeah,
a motorized artillery piece.
Yeah.
So it was wild. It was wild.
Well, what military decorations did you end up with? So obviously Vietnam Service Medal.
Well,
did you have air medals?
I had 28 air medals.
Only 28. Wow. Okay.
Some of those are.
Well, some people can't get 30.
Well, some of those people. Some of them were.
Oh my God.
Well, the air medal had the stars. Sometimes you get a gold star in lieu of 5 or something.
Sure.
Right. I don't know how they. Right. I really don't know how they do that. I just see that.
That's okay.
I know I had 28 and 3 stars on that ribbon.
Wow.
I got the FC. I think really for the flight we had with Harley on getting shut down.
You don't repeat. I don't know how many guys you know that got the DFC. But now we know one.
Yeah.
One. The Bronze Star with a Combat V is kind of different for an aviator, but I got that for running that regimental operations office while the guy was on emergency leave.
That was you were the regimental opso.
Yeah.
But through all of this, throughout your career, you didn't really have a ground tour.
I don't
even your ground tours.
I didn't hear any time where you were on a staff for 3 years or at the Pentagon or whatever. Didn't do any flying. You were always flying.
I tried to do that. The only reason I took a staff job is because I could fly the jets. That's the only way I'd get back in them. So
What a truly unique and amazing Marine Corps career you had. Holy cow.
It really is. I think it's, I've done a lot of crazy things, but I tell you one thing, I was a pretty damn good pilot. Some of the
That's
funny
awesome.
stuff we did and all that, you can't do that this day and age, but back then, it wasn't that bad.
Well, there was fewer cell phones with video
Yeah,
cameras,
right.
right? As in
Yeah.
zero.
But good thing,
Absolutely. Much harder to
wow.
catch
all
you.
the fun times in California was good because, California was a laid back community back in
Right.
those days, the beach parties and everything. They didn't care about a helicopter landing and
Right.
having a hot dog. Hell, they thought it was normal.
That's just normal.
That's cool.
That's just SOP.
Yeah. Something to watch.
That's pretty awesome.
So
Well, I've never
that
heard
is
of that.
amazing.
I've never heard of that before. That's awesome.
That is indeed awesome. Well, sadly, it's getting close to the time to land the plane.
Okay. Uh,
I'm trying to think if there's any other. Fig, you got
Let me
any last
see.
questions?
Well, we always ask, did you ever have your hand on the ejection handle when you're flying jets? Was that ever so bad that you had your hand on the ejection handle?
I did one time. We're transpacking from Hawaii when we were taking 212, relocating them from Hawaii to the carrier Oriskany in San Diego, and I had
Okay.
a fuel pump transfer system that did not work, so which actually took away all of my wing fuel, and this was after the point of no return. I mean, it wasn't.
Yeah,
it wasn't
can't go
no.
back. Can't go back.
No.
Not enough gas to go
No.
forward, right?
And I don't know why it happened at that point, but then they said, well, we're going to try to get a 130 out of California, get them in the air and try to get to you before you run out of gas. I said, well, that'd be neat. It really would. But
That would be neat.
I'm sitting there in it, and I've got all my stuff put away. I got my kneeboard over here. I got everything out of the way. So I'll have a clear ejection. And then I'll
Right.
start looking at the water. And you know what I'm looking for when I'm looking at the water.
You're looking for
Yeah.
sharks.
I'm guessing shark fins.
I kept looking, and I know every blot looked like a shark, and it looked like a big shark.
Of
And I
course.
got down, and I was ready to go. And I didn't think they were going to make me in time, but finally 130 called and said, "Hey, we got you on the radar. We're so many miles." And I said, "I don't care how many miles. How long is when are you going to be here?" I said, "I'm getting about out of gas." And he said, "Well, we're going to pick you up. We're going to make a turn in front of you. We got the drove out. So all you got to do is just kind of line up, and just fly straight into it." And I got to thinking, I said, well, the last time we had air-to-air refueling, I think I jabbed at that thing maybe 12 times before I said, I don't think I can do that.
No pressure. No pressure now. Right?
That program, that F8 was not an easy plug-in because it's set up.
Was it? Was it out
out
to
to the side where it's back by.
Yeah, we know about
Okay,
that.
yeah.
Fig RePete.
So they did. I picked them up, and I kind of lined that thing up. And I tell you, it didn't flinch anything. I went straight into that thing and locked into that probe. It didn't. I mean,
First try.
And
That's
concentration
right
well,
there,
it was
buddy.
good luck or something. But anyhow, I had less than 100 pounds of
It's better to be
less
lucky
than
than
100
good,
pounds of
lads.
fuel on the gauge when it did it.
And I bet that gauge had a
Good.
a little error with it.
Plus or minus
Plus or
200
minus
pounds
something.
error, right?
Holy
Yeah, I
shit. That was
I knew I was going to be wet. I just knew it. Ain't no way. But
wow. I'm glad I asked
Yeah.
you that because that was a
Yeah.
good story.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
Well, that's a great one.
you had 2 engine failers in helicopters. You talked about one. One you had the city council on board. What was the other?
we were in on the Westpac, and we were in Puerto Rico, Villegas Island in Puerto Rico, where the Navy used to use that as a gunnery.
Bombing
bombing
target.
target.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bombing range, gunnery
and
range.
the
Yeah.
Navy would go out there and pick up shrapnel and all that. So we were down there. We had to clear the range before. So I had the admiral off of one of the ships that was observing 4 of his staff, and the helicopter I had that fell in North Carolina with the people aboard, I was at 1,000 feet, perfect altitude to auto rotate, do all this good stuff. So we had these guys aboard. I landed, and they got out to look at some of the targets, and they got back on, and everybody loaded up. I used a lot of power, jumped up in the air, got 200 feet, the damn thing quit. Okay, at 200 feet, you don't do nothing but ride. All I was able to do is just keep it level. And it comes straight down, of course, up in the air, all the blades and everything, and it up did a half barrel roll and down on its side. And after all the blades and everything stopped whirling and flying around, we all crawled out the side window on the back of that. This is an HRS or whatever. Nice. We all crawled out, a few cuts, a few scratches, a few, skinny places, but other than that, nothing else.
Wow. So, yeah. So, 200 feet.
You don't.
There's no speed or altitude for auto rotate. You're just a rock, right? Oh,
and I didn't have enough that the blades at that time. By the time I even tried to pull up on the collective thing, wouldn't have had any impact. All I could do, luckily, was keep it square, so it landed on all four wheels. So I lost one engine on a 53, which NATOPS wise, this was a good one that I showed them that their book was right. I was carrying about 8,000 pounds externally on the 53 and lost an engine. So normally there's two options. You jettison, cut it loose, or if you have a nice area, you can kind of make what they call a slow run on, just to let it touch down, and you keep going and land on the other side of it. You got enough power to do that. So nobody had tried that, but I did. They had a little airfield that we owned over in Vietnam, and I was able to keep the speed down and let that, when that thing touched down, I cut it loose, and I went, it picked up and landed right in front of it. It didn't even roll over. Sitting there on the runway. So I thought, and it was by the book. They tough did it.
That's perfect.
Well, Moose, I could crack a beer and listen to stories for another hour with you.
I probably come up with one.
I know there's stuff that you're not talking. I mean, the kind of career you had, I don't know how you can remember everything, but wow, thank you first of all for your service. And thank you for sharing all your stories with us.
If they didn't take my airplane away, I'd still be there.
Right.
And so but just so to put the cross on the T, you retired as a lieutenant colonel.
Correct.
As the squadron commander of the RAG squadron.
Yeah, the Huey training squadron.
Wow, what a great career.
It was. It really was.
That's awesome.
Well, is there repeat? Did I take all your thunder? Is there anything else I'm forgetting to ask? Moose, while we got him hostage.
This has been great. I've just been sitting here in awe for most of this, and I thank you for answering.
I'll see if there's any and answering. There was another story. If you not totally out of time, we had a.
It's just
we can fit one last one in, and then we'll land the plane on that.
I'm truly amazed. The amount of flight time you had, all the different aircraft, not just jets, but all those different helicopters, rotary wing, combat tours in both kinds,
and
the ground work, the evac of Saigon, and what a career! Wow.
On that nuclear cruise we went on. You remember the colonel I told you about that was, I told him to sit on his hands? Yeah.
Right.
Okay. He was a real stickler about it. He didn't like anybody talking on the radio. And because we had our squadron, the helicopter, we had an internal radio. We could talk to each other. We didn't have to talk to the tower or anything, but he'd sometimes be listening on there, and somebody'd say something, and he'd say, "Get off the air. Just get off the air. You don't need to be talking." So we're flying out one day, and he had, I guess it's 8 of us. We're out training, doing something, 8 of us. He called the ship to 8 for landing, called Pry Fly. And so the tower, Pry Fly guy came back and said, okay, how many airplanes you got, And so he said, I got 8. And then I keyed the mic and burped. Just a loud burp. So he keyed his mic and said, "Who did that?" So I burped again.
Right.
And so he didn't say anything else. So we got all those 8 airplanes aboard, got on the ship, went down to the ready room. He said, "Everybody in your seat." And that same routine. This is where you're going to sit until somebody tells me who did that. Right. Nobody ever confessed. So finally the XO came in about 11 o'clock that night, said, "Okay, guys, you're clear to go back to your room." So, okay, that whole cruise after that, every time he made any kind of a call on the radio, if there's more than 2 airplanes in the air, he got a burp. It drove him nuts. So
yeah, but you set the precedence, and it was
most of them wouldn't do it. They thought they'd get caught. Well, we offloaded in Okinawa for resupply, and they set up a tent, operational tent there, and we're going to be there for 3 or 4 weeks. So we're going to do daily flights, and so he had flying one day. There's about 6 of them flying. I wasn't flying that day, but in the operation tent, I asked what's going on, so and so. So they stayed around. And I'm sitting there next to the microphone, and he made a call to Fatima or somebody there asking a question. And as soon as he got through, I burped. He came back. He came back, and I don't know. It's a couple of nights later at happy hour, he came and he said, "Moose," he said, "I got to apologize." He said, "I just knew that you were the burp, but I was flying out today with guys. You weren't in the air, and somebody did it." I said, I said, "I told you, sir, it wasn't me." No, I apologize. I'd like to call him, beautiful. Tell him it was really me, but I won't. I'll let him guess.
That's beautiful.
So the Phantom Burper was alive and well.
Well, thank you for that. That's a good story to finish on.
It is indeed. So we need to thank a couple other people too, don't we, Fig? I think probably the Mac Geek Gab, one gentleman by the name of Dave Hamilton. Appreciate all your help and support. He's got the Gig Gab as well, and the Business Brain.
And we got to send a thank you out to Jordan Harbinger for the show swap announcement with us.
Right, he's got a great show. He interviews some amazing people. I heard recently one with Terry Crews from America's Got Talent, and Everybody Hates Chris, and White Chicks, and all kinds of other good movies. So he was a scream, fun to listen to.
I'm gonna listen to that one.
Yeah,
I'm definitely gonna listen to that one. I listened to the one with the David Packhouse. From he was one of the 2. Yeah, War Dogs. Yeah, that was interesting as hell as well.
For the War Dogs movie.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jordan, for swap announcements with us.
We do appreciate that. Yeah. Hey, Fig, how can we get in touch with ourselves? Someone wants to get a hold of us.
That's a very personal question. However, if somebody needed to get in touch with us, our email address now is on our website.
It is indeed.
Is it not?
It is. I put them up last night.
Thank you.
So Fig at sothereiwas.us, Sticks at sothereiwas.us, and RePete at sothereiwas.us. And incidentally, just a note back into the middle of the show, Sticks is our resident helicopter pilot. He said the Coast Guard was flying H-3s back when you were doing the Mount Whitney rescue. So, that's from the Coast Guard themselves. So yeah, we also have a new location to go get some cool So There I Was merchandise. We've got clocks and hats and mugs and koozies and a rug and a beach towel and a cool other stuff. A bikini. Yeah. We're going to get more stuff up there. So go to sothereiwas.us/merch, and that'll get you to our store. We take a tiny profit to help keep the show going. And thank you, to our pilots at sothereiwas.us/Patreon. Those are the folks helping us out, keeping this show coming, keeping the great stories coming to you every week. We appreciate all that support. We wouldn't be able to continue doing this much longer if we hadn't started getting some support. That's huge. We can't thank you enough. I don't know. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else we should thank, Fig.
Let me think. That music sounds good. Oh, yeah. Those are the 2 guys that make the Air Force sound good, the Dos Gringos. Thank you, gents, for letting us use your music.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Classic music. Great stuff. Thank you, Colonel Moose. And
yes, thank you, my friend.
Yes,
thanks, Fig.
it's enjoyable.
It is enjoyable. And thank you.
I got a whole nother bag over here of stuff.
We're going to have you back for more.
All right.
Going to have you back for more. This is good stuff. This is an amazing career and fun to listen to. So, to you, sir, don't let go of the collective. Don't sit on the ejection handle. Both apply in your case.
Yeah, that's right.
Can't say that too often.
Yeah, exactly. And Semper Fi. Thank you for your service.
Amen.
Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the shit I was wearing on that day. Now an F-16 is cramped enough, but it's even worse with all that stuff supposed to save your life. But we knew there was no way. 'Cause when you're going down the North Atlantic, man, it's over.
Like the song says,
It's over.